Spread the love. Spread the love.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Rise Above Podcast. And today I am so excited for today's show, you guys. I have two very special guests. We have Pierre Mathrin and we have Hugo. Help me out, Hugo.
Cabrera.
Yeah. And so today, you guys, we'll be talking about some very important information. I'm with two very informative guys who knows a lot about, the world that we live in and how to make it better for ourselves and how all that comes into play, right? So, Pierre, you're an entrepreneur, credit specialist, and you have an interest in real estate, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Also life insurance as well.
Oh yeah, life insurance.
Generational wealth, stuff like that, especially for, certain communities.
Okay, awesome. And Hugo, you're also an entrepreneur.
Correct.
You own a gold
Cash for Gold
business in Miami Beach. And you also own a telemedicine, which is What's Up Connect.
Correct.
Right?
Connect.
And what is What's Up Connect about?
So What's Up Connect is just a telemedicine service that a couple partners and I put together about 2016. We were working on this for several years, and we basically just provide access to a doctor anywhere in the country. It's unlimited access, all 50 states, for you as an individual or up to even 7 members of a household for $25 a month or $35 a month, and it's unlimited access anywhere in the country.
Awesome.
With access to prescriptions and things of that nature.
Okay. And you guys have like a free trial right now, right?
We do. Due to the COVID-19 situation, we all decided to give a free month to anyone in the country who wants it. There's a $5 one-time registration fee, but if you just go to whatsupconnect.com and you put in free trial all together in all caps, you'll get the month for free. And you have unlimited access, so you can use it, try it, and if you like it, you just keep it.
Awesome. And Pierre, let's jump back to you right quick. What in your services that you provide, do you want to elaborate a little bit more what you can help people with
Yes,
what it is that you offer?
Basically, it's I started traveling around the country years back, and I started to notice that there's a problem. And when I used to donate a lot at the Overtown Homeless Shelter when I first came down here from New York, and I noticed that certain communities had serious money problems, a lot of homeless problems, a lot of issues, and I said to myself, well, how do you help these people? And I thought donating was the key. Now I started noticing that the more you donate, the more that you have to continue donating.
Right.
So it almost doesn't actually really help anybody. Now I'm not saying not to do it. It's just that there's a way that sometimes there's a time where you have to put a tourniquet on people continuing to fall into those type of things. So I said, you know what, there's a two-pronged attack. One is you can donate, at the same time, the next generation coming up, you actually can have them go in a different route.
Right.
So what did these people that are in these tough situations did not have? And I thought about it was financial literacy.
Right.
Their parents didn't have it, their grandparents didn't have it, to a certain extent. So I said to myself, you know what, let me educate myself a little bit about the subject and how far I can go into it. And then I started noticing that, these are things that we weren't taught in school. So once I figured that out, I said, okay, you know what? Let me get with a finance company so they can teach me. And at the same time, I'm going to be helping people so that I can prevent them from one day being out in those tough situations. Right. That one day I was driving down 27th, it was Opelika, and I saw a young man, he was maybe in his 50s, and he was riding a bike, and I went around a corner, I picked up a friend, and all of a sudden I saw that same bike, but then I saw 2 legs waving up, and it was in a dumpster. The person was dumpster diving, and that right there, I said, you know what, I have to do something.
Right.
And I can't continue donating because then one day might end up out there myself. Right. So I can't donate myself to, so then I started learning about financial literacy, and then I thought about it. If real estate was in that family's portfolio, life insurance, passing down, saving money, budgeting money, investing money.
Right.
So guess what? That would eliminate poverty in certain communities. So from there, I said, you know what? Let me get into it. So what I do is I help people with finances, credit, and most important part is changing their mindset.
Right.
You know, you don't have to be out there every Black Friday. You don't actually have to be out there one Black Friday. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you take that money and invest it for your family, for example, a lot of people don't know that you can take $350, pay your life insurance for the whole year. You know what I mean? I say do it during tax season. You know what I mean? So now next time you file your income tax, you already got the money and just pay it off for the whole year.
Right.
You don't have to worry about getting the GoFundMe. Now, credit is another thing too, is because a lot of people don't know this. If you're working 40 years in this country, having less than perfect credit for a lifetime on the lower end, you're actually throwing away over $200,000 in extra payments, missed opportunities, deposits, because you get charged deposits if you don't have excellent credit or at least decent credit. You can miss out on a job, which you're missing out. Anything that you finance, even for cars, homes, a lot of people don't understand that. You can sometimes throw away 6 figures, and like we were speaking earlier, if you had invested that money, how much would your retirement money look like? You know, just for not having the right number, 3-digit number, which is credit. So I said, you know what, let me learn a little bit more about this. And I had an actual friend of mine, he's into real estate, and he helped me get my first credit card because I didn't know what it was. To be honest with you, he said, hey, what's your credit score? I was like, credit score? Like, what is that? Right. And I was like, and this might sound funny. I was like, but that's for Caucasian people, no? And he was like, no, are you crazy? He was like, listen, go to Bank of America, get a secure credit card. So he taught me about credit. He still teaches me about credit. He taught me about credit, and I ruined my credit. I got it better. I ruined it, played around with it, but to the point where I understood it.
I did it 4 times myself.
Exactly. You got to rebuild, So then all of a sudden, I started helping some of my family members, anybody who wanted to listen to what I had to say. But the thing is, I wasn't making money off of it. So what I decided to do is I said, hey, you know what? The best thing to do is you find out what your people need, you provide it as a service, and then they pay for you because you're actually helping.
Right.
And then I said, you know what? At first I started thinking, I said, well,
not to cut you off, they would also take it more serious as well.
They would take it more seriously, but there's a flip side to that. That's exactly where I was going. And I said to myself, does it make sense for me to charge the people that I care about the most on the planet to help fix their credit? And then I thought about it. I said, well, any other nationality, what they do is they find out what their community needs, set up shop, and that community supports their business and they provide a service. So I figured, you know what, why not do the same? Now I do get a little pushback, but that's just a mindset issue. But I've been successful at it. I've helped tons of people. They get excited about it. And I tell people credit is a self-esteem. It helps you with your self-esteem as well. You got a dark cloud when you look on a credit site and you see that your credit or get denied. You got a 450
and
credit
some people
score.
think they can never get up out of that.
They think that I've had people in tears after I pulled up their credit, and they're like, oh my God, I owe this, I owe that, and their credit's in the 400s. My life is over. I was having that conversation with my mom the other day because she feels like her credit is at a point in her age that she will never be able to do anything in this country if it applies to credit. And I'm like, you can't think like that. If you think like that, that's what it's going to be. But anybody can, repair their credit, and you have to know how to maintain it from there. Right? You have to know how to maintain it.
So that's something we'll be talking about later on. So you mentioned as to like what led you to want to educate people on, how to build wealth for us to find opportunities out there, right? And my story is similar. For me, I've been an entrepreneur almost all my life, right? For a good part of my life. And what I understood is that I know how to make money. I know how to get the bills paid and how to keep things going. And I probably could have become a millionaire already if I really understood how money worked, right? And so I feel like that's an issue, just like you were saying in, the inner cities across America, that we don't understand how money works and how to make it work for us, right? And so I became obsessed with how do I learn this? And me too, I got introduced into a financial literacy platform dealing with life insurance. And that opened me up to understand there's a lot that I don't understand. And there's a reason why I'm still like at this average state of just paying the bills, getting it done, making it happen, right? And so that even further led me into real estate, where I now have an accountability group. And we learn about many different things, not just real estate, right? You know, just how this whole country is set up for us to be able to build wealth if we see that opportunity. Because it's all about if you're well educated to even see the opportunity when it's there, right? So I could completely feel where you're coming from with that. So you guys, again, a couple things that we talk about here today. Some of us might be experts in it, very well versed in the area. And there's some things that we'll talk about where we are not experts, but we know about it. We are further educating ourselves about it. And so as we learn, we like to also teach, because in teaching, we're also learning. So I hope you're excited about today's show, because I am. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot myself. Okay, so let's get right into it, guys. So let's talk about some wealth building strategies. Let's start with you, Hugo.
All right.
It was very interesting to me, and you're also an accountability partner of mine, right? So it was very interesting to me when I started learning about the banking system. Like, how did the banking system even start to begin with? And, you know, how does that really play a part in us either having an advantage or disadvantage to that?
Well, let's see, the banking system, it can be a complex thing if you're not knowledgeable on the subject, but if you actually get into it and you start to learn about it, you start to realize it's actually really not that complicated. And people, there's a lot of different vehicles out there that you can use that we're learning about together, right? Where you can use to basically build wealth and be your own bank. Mm-hmm. And the banking system per se, I mean, the way it's set up today is they receive deposits, right? You, me, we all deposit money into the bank, and then they take that money and they loan it out to somebody who wants to buy a car, somebody that wants to buy a home, somebody that wants to do a remodel. But it's the same money, right? So if I'm depositing money and they're paying me, let's say 1% interest, they're gonna go ahead and loan this money out multiple times, right? And they're gonna receive 500% interest. They'll get 4, 5, 6 times the amount of money, if not more,
right,
on the same money that we're putting in. So essentially, with the traditional conventional banking system, we're really giving up control, right? And we're giving it to the banks. Mm-hmm. And the stuff that we're learning about is how to get that control back, how to basically manage your money, have it grow for you in ways that were set up by, you know, very wealthy elite people from a couple hundred years ago.
Right.
This is nothing new. It's just now with the power of the internet, this information is really kind of getting out there.
Right.
And it's, you know, it's been around for a long time. So it's very fascinating subjects that.
And I was surprised to find out how it all started, which is part of what this silver that's sitting on the table is all about. Can you tell us how it started?
So silver, gold, precious metals, these were essentially, once upon a time we were under a gold reserve, right? We had a gold reserve, which means you couldn't really print more money than you had in reserves of precious metals. So the gold and silver really goes back hundreds of years. It's the original currency. It's a store of, actually, let me rephrase that. It's not currency, it's actually money. What we use today is currency. These are paper certificates that the only value they hold is from the confidence of the people, right? We believe that $100 is worth $100, but in reality, it's a piece of paper with nothing that backs it up.
Right.
Once upon a time, you couldn't print that $100 unless you had $100 of gold in reserves in the bank. The banks, the original banks, were really set up to store your precious metals, and then you were issued a paper certificate which was redeemable at another branch or whatever. And there was a lot of national banks and private banks. There was a lot of discrepancy in the way these things were set up. Essentially, we only had a gold reserve from I believe it was the 1880s up until the 1930s. But in 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, right, via the Federal Reserve Act, it took us off of the gold standard, and we went into the fiat monetary based system, which is just paper currencies. And throughout history, in 1934, President Roosevelt did the Gold Act, where all Americans had to go in anything over $100, they had to give it to the bank, give it to the federal, not the Federal Reserve, they had to give it to the Department of Treasury. And we were, as Americans, we weren't allowed to have anything over $100 worth of gold. In bullion, you could have coins. That was one of the exceptions. And you had to go to the bank, turn it in, and you were getting back greenbacks. You were getting back certificates, redeemable. You were able to redeem these certificates for gold or silver. But all of that came to a screeching halt in 1972 with Richard Nixon, and that's when we were officially removed off of the gold reserve. And I mean, gold, precious metals are really a good way to control inflation. And in reality, I mean, I don't want to get too down the conspiracy theorist road, but there's the Rothschilds, there's the Rockefellers. These banking cartels really wanted to protect their interest. And this is where all of this Federal Reserve and all of these things are born. This is where they were created. It wasn't really for us, even though if you go to the Federal Reserve website today, I was on it last night, it's like we were created to help the people and to, maintain integrity and security and all of these things. But in reality, it was just a way for them to protect their interest via us, via the people, via our work, via our labor, via our taxes.
Right.
Which that's a whole nother subject for another episode.
Right. Now, I seen a post the other day on Facebook, and I tagged you in it because I know you're in the jewelry business. And I think the post said something like, how the US dollar basically is crashed and has no value. And, you explained to me, and I'll let you explain it to the audience, on how you feel what Trump is doing in office right now is perhaps, we're not saying that it is, perhaps is going to lead back to what you're talking about. Right?
People are talking about, if you see what's going on right now, the Federal Reserve is buying a lot of debt, right? You have companies that have debt, you have mortgage-backed securities. A lot of this bad debt is being passed on to the Federal Reserve through the form of bonds, treasury bonds, and all this stuff. They're buying it up. And essentially, the Federal Reserve is a private corporation. People think Federal Reserve must be associated with the government. It's absolutely false. It's a completely separate entity. It is it's an incorporated business, right? And the Federal Reserve essentially issues loans to the Department of Treasury, and our taxes pay for back these loans, right? So when we pay our federal income tax, this is basically interest payments on these loans. There is talk that Trump might go back to a gold reserve, right? Essentially bankrupting the Federal Reserve. Now, these are all speculation and stuff. I don't have any insider information or anything like that.
But in the case if that was to happen, what does that actually mean for us? What does that mean?
Well, I think in the short term, again, my opinion, in the short term, I think it would be very devastating for the little guy, right? Because it's going to crush the value of whatever we have in, let's say we have $10,000 in savings in the bank. Once the dollar value just completely evaporates, which can happen right now with all of this overprinting of money, hyperinflation. This has happened in so many countries.
Right, you said it's happened in your country.
I was born in Ecuador. It happened there. It's happened in Zimbabwe. It's happened in so many places throughout history. Argentina. Once this essentially this collapse happens and these governments default on their debts, the value of your money basically evaporates. So I personally know people who, for example, in Ecuador, you had about $100,000 worth of the Ecuadorian currency, but once converted to dollars, it was about $100,000 equivalent. After the economy collapsed, they suffered serious hyperinflation, and then the economy collapsed. And it took about 2 years for them to reset everything. And then what they essentially did was they dollarized the economy. So they got rid of their currency and they implemented the US dollar, which they actually have to buy. So it's even a little bit more expensive for them because they got to buy this money. And they limit it, right? But your $100,000 that you had in the bank, once this was all said and done, turned into about 10 grand. So you lost 90% of your money, right? Because you had it sitting in a bank account.
And you didn't have control over it.
And you had no control over it. I also had family members, though, that saw these things coming. And I have family members that lost everything. I have family members that saw it coming. And what they did was they put it into land. They built their dream home. They did all these things because they're like, listen, the banks you can't trust. Let's just park the money somewhere that the land is there and they're not going to take that from me. And then over the long run, it technically should appreciate, right?
And this is why real estate is a big part of building wealth. The common denominator that I see in wealthy people is life insurance policies and real estate.
Right.
You know, of course, cash flow, passive income, unearned income, it all comes from that. But to me, those are the two main things that I see. Would you guys agree?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
With stocks too, but yeah, definitely.
Right. Okay, so
as you know, the real estate is with the bank with the life insurance policies, you can get into some really creative avenues and vehicles where you're now going into like tax deferred environments, and the flexibility that it gives you is just, we're just learning about these things now.
Right.
We'll have more episodes on the subject, but it's just fascinating.
Endless.
Right, it's very endless.
Absolutely right.
You can never learn enough. And so one of the things that really caught my interest when I was introduced to financial literacy is how the wealthy pays very little to nothing when it comes to taxes.
Absolutely.
Right? And to come to find out today, taxation is even illegal. I didn't know that. So somebody mentioned that to me in Facebook the other day, but I didn't get a chance to research it or understand it.
Taxes on your labor.
On your labor.
So gains, if I have a business transaction where I make money, that's a gain. It could be capital gains, it could be, so it's, the definition is taxes on my work is an exchange of services. I pay you to do something, you give me the work. There should be no taxes on that. Actually, that is illegal, but that's again another subject.
So, just so we understand, right? Because you have the Amazon guy, what's his name?
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, so he's about to become a trillionaire, right? And there's a lot of people upset because people like himself do not pay taxes, right? And I want to talk about a couple of the ways that they use, the strategies that they use to allow themselves not to pay taxes. What could you say to that?
Well, I actually saw it floating around that that he doesn't pay taxes, and a lot of people are upset about it. I actually think it's a good thing, because if you've worked so hard and to understand the tax laws and set up your business to where you understand, or hire the people that understand how to play around with these taxes. Not saying it's illegal or whether it's legal, but to understand the system. Because what America does, a lot of people don't understand, they reward you for being a business owner. A lot of people that are not business owners think that's unfair. And I say the only thing I say to them is, just become a business owner and learn what other people are doing, and then there will be no reason to complain. But so let's take a look at it. I'm not sure on the amount of businesses or employees that he has, but the United States government rewards Jeff Bezos for tens of thousands of employees. They pay taxes. Now, income tax, state tax, this tax. Actually, we're being taxed to death right now. And just like the gentleman said earlier, tax is illegal with the Federal Reserve and the whole banking system. And if you understand taxes, you have to understand that the name of the game is to make as much money as you possibly can and pay as less taxes as you can as well, because that's the difference between the rich and the poor. It's all on a tax system, and then of course on how you deal with debt.
Right.
You know what I mean? So good debt, bad debt. The rich people have good debt.
Right.
If you're thinking like in a materialistic type of way, then that's going to be bad debt. But you also have to understand how the tax game runs. I think that it's going to be quicker for him to become a trillionaire, and it's big. So if you really look at it, yeah, the income is good, but the amount of money that he pays in taxes, that's where it really got him where he needs to be.
Right.
Now, of course, he has these big warehouses.
Right.
He has these big factories.
Overhead.
Right.
Right.
You got to understand, a lot of that is where he gets his tax shelters from the real estate from those warehouses. So then what I tell people is, hey, you don't want to pay that much in taxes? Own some real estate.
Right.
Just learn what they're doing.
So you guys, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back with this part of the conversation. Welcome back, you guys. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And also, special thank you to Goldmine Studios, where this show is being recorded today. And we're going to go back with Pierre, who was discussing about, taxation and, what's his name? Jeff Bezos. Bezos, yeah. Amazon. About how it is that the wealthy avoids paying taxes. Continue.
Okay, so now one thing I do want to get correct. They do pay taxes, but when it comes to property taxes, you can't really get around property taxes. But when it comes to income tax, for taxes for anything else that they do, one of the number one things that Jeff Bezos does is those huge factories that he has. They found ways on how they can save their money, because in America, this government actually rewards you when you have multiple properties and, of course, multiple businesses and then multiple employees. So I have no problem with him not paying taxes. Some people do, but I look at it like, hey, he could pay taxes and hire tens of thousands less people than what he did. All of a sudden that would put the economy in a upside down. So I look at it like the best thing to do is get a home-based business. If you're not a billionaire or a millionaire and you want to know and learn on how to save money when it comes to taxes, learn about some business, and then, of course, own some real estate. Not own a piece of real estate, own as many as you possibly can, and then you can find out the tax breaks. What I want people to understand is you're not supposed to hate on the rich for the things that they know. Right. The best thing to do is actually try to find out what it is that they know, so that you could see a way, find a way to apply it in your life. I think the thing I say is you can't hate yourself. You can't be a hater or hate yourself out of poverty by hating on somebody else. The best thing to do is you got to learn and fight your way out of poverty. Two of the things that people that are rich do, it's all about the know, is how you deal with debt, and then of course how much you're paying in taxes. As long as you can master that, learn about that, research about that. As much time as you spend on Netflix, just find out on how you can save money on taxes, on how you can purchase some property, and how you could get a home-based business and save on taxes for less than $300. So imagine that, you get a home-based business for less than $300. Now you're making money, which is good. Now you're paying less in taxes, and then now you can tax write off some of the bills that you had before, and then now you're paying less in taxes. Now you can have the government actually pay a bill or two, if not three, inside of your home. But you just got to know the game.
And what I think is important about knowing the game, and most people might think it's not, because a lot of people tends to think you have to have a lot of money to start, right? And playing the game, you could start at the very bottom. It's learning how the game is played.
That's right.
Right? So as you're climbing up that ladder, you are already aware of this game, and it gets bigger and greater, right?
Correct.
To me, that's how I see it. So, Hugo, go ahead and tell us a little bit about, were you done?
One thing I wanted to add is in 1776, Patrick Henry, Benjamin Franklin, and those guys felt that they were being taken advantage of by England with taxation without representation. And that was somewhat around 3%. Right now, what's happening to us in taxes, we pay taxes more than anything. Actually, most of our income is actually going to taxes.
Yeah, so California is 60-40.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. And the thing is, Trump was talking about how a lot of people took it the wrong way when he said something about not paying such and such in taxes because he's smart. A lot of people like, looked at it as being narcissistic or whatever, but he was just in the know. He might not know, but he hires people that know. We got to start learning how to be experts and hiring experts to take care of our business and stuff like that. So I think that taxes is one of the number one things that's hurting us. We got to pay less in taxes, and then we just got to be more financially mature when it comes to these things. So with Jeff Bezos not paying taxes, I have no problems. Only thing is, I just want to know the blueprint. I want to read the book that he's read. So
That's right.
Yeah, Hugo. So tell us, can you tell us a strategy that the wealthy uses in order to avoid paying as much taxes?
Well, it's like Pierre said, right? If you own a business, a lot of the expenses of running a business is a write-off, right? So that's one of the most basic ways that people do it. You just put things under your business, your entity name, you write things off that are correlated with your business. Then if you want to get into a little bit more, there's so many different avenues between real estate. I mean,
the one that I would like to talk about in particularly is the whole life insurance.
Right. So
policy.
This is a fascinating topic that we've been exploring together mutually, and the way these things are structured with the whole life insurance, it's just fascinating. Essentially, you can buy a whole life insurance policy, whole life or permanent life or universal life. You have to know there's different ones within these groups, right? And there's ones that are specific for retirement, for growing cash value in essentially in these accounts. But the way they set it up is when I go and I buy a whole life insurance policy, let's say, let's just pretend I'm a big guy and I'm going to start off with, I put in $200,000 into my whole life insurance policy. This is now for the whole life, right? Let's say it's a $1 million policy. I have essentially contractually, this $1 million has to be paid out when I die to my beneficiaries. Right. But the beauty of this is really, I don't really look at it so much as the insurance part of things. It's the vehicle that you use in order to essentially operate in a tax-deferred, tax-free environment. So it's not really so much about the insurance as opposed to
AKA know how to move your money around.
Know how to move your money around. It's all about the flow. These things flow in and flow out, and if you know how to structure these things properly, then you just have that leg up.
Right.
So real basic is, if I have a $200,000 cash value in my whole life insurance policy, and let's say I had a $1 million insurance policy, the insurance company contractually has to pay me that $1 million or my beneficiaries when I die. They don't care if I go and I can take loans out on this cash value. They don't care. Right? So I can go within 36 hours, I can say, listen, I don't even need to tell them anything. I just need the money. I need $200,000. That's the cash value. They'll give it to me within 36 hours. And then I can go invest in real estate. I can now make money. This gets really, really interesting because contractually on your whole life insurance, you're gaining interest and dividends on this policy. So it grows throughout your life. But you can also loan out this cash value, use it to generate more revenue. Let's say in the example of real estate, I can do a private loan. And I can buy a house and flip the house, sell the house. Whatever money I make, I can put it right back into the whole policy, into the life insurance policy, and I pay no taxes on that. That is zero taxes. And then now, not only is my whole life policy growing through my investments, it's also growing contractually through the uninterrupted compounding interest, which is just a whole nother thing. It's beautiful.
So I like to explain that part, right? So if you have money in your policy and you pull it out, and you go buy property or you lend it out to someone, you are still gaining on compounding interest in your policy, regardless if that money is in there or not. And like Hugo said, you do have to understand how these policies work, what fees are attached with them, but it's a strategy that for sure the wealthy uses because they're able to keep all the money that they would pay in interest. They're getting paid interest on their money versus them paying a traditional bank interest on money that was lended to them.
Yeah, these strategies were put in place by the Rockefellers and these families from a long time ago, and they'll never run out of money because this money just grows and basically for them in perpetuity. Right? It's forever.
Right. And the reason why I'm excited about this show and I wanted to do this show, you guys, is because we literally can mimic what the wealthy does and apply it to our own lives, right?
Absolutely.
Like we can literally create the life that we desire to have, a fulfilling life, by literally just mimicking what they do. And earlier we were speaking about how is it that Republicans, right? I would like you to talk about that.
Okay. Well, one thing I'd like to make clear is a lot of people automatically think that I'm a Republican or I'm supposed to be a Democrat because I'm black. Now, one thing is I'm not a Republican or a Democrat actually, but I am black.
Same here.
So, so when I speak about certain things, I'm only concerned about things that would help the community. So one lesson, one where I really got a lot of my research and understanding on how this whole political thing is, how it works, is through Malcolm X. And for example, what's happening now with Trump and Biden and Diddy, Puff Daddy asking Joe Biden to do something offer something to the black community to earn the vote. Now, my thing is, and this is Mr. 94 crime bill Biden we're talking about. So my thing is, I say that if you're gonna keep it neutral, and this is not supposed to be an emotional thing, we don't owe any political party any type of loyalty or anything like that. What we should do is we should be loyal to ourselves. So now we have to look at which political party has been helping us and has been hurting us, or has just been leaving us alone for the last 60 years. Now, what I come to find out is that every 4 years there is a political party that comes into the black neighborhood and promises the black community, Section 8, government cheese and stuff like that. But the only qualifications is you have to be single and you have to be poor and you have to stay uneducated. So, but there's also another political party that says, hey, listen, we might not like you, you guys might not like us. Do your thing, and then we'll do our thing. But if you make it rich, hey, that's no problem. We'll leave you alone. If you stay poor, that's your problem. I'd rather deal with a political party, or at least sit down with a political party that's going to say, hey, listen, we're not going to stop you from doing what you need to do, but we just won't help you. Versus a political party that says, hey, listen, don't do anything. Those guys are racists over there. Don't do anything. Just stay here, stay poor, we'll feed you, we'll clothe you, we'll give you shelter, but it has to be in the worst neighborhoods possible. Just stay poor. And when I started looking at the finances of black Americans for the last 60 years, the home ownership hasn't risen, hasn't gone up for at least 50, 60 years. In 1864, with slaves, we had 1% of the America's wealth. In 1964, we had 1% of America's wealth. In 2020, with 1.5 to 1.7 trillion, and when it comes to income and buying power, we still have 1% of America's wealth. But we've been listening to a political party that knows how to gain wealth, but supposedly they like us, but they won't teach us on how to gain that. The only thing is that every 4 years they just tell us how bad those other guys are. Well, then I want to talk about how bad you guys are. So that's why I said I'm not a Republican or I'm not a Democrat. My thing is, I know that the Republican Party, supposedly the party of the rich people. To be honest with you, I think the Democrats have more money, but I think that the Republican Party set things in place for themselves to where they say, hey, we're going to continue to do this, but we won't stop anybody. So I say the community that I belong to, we got to look at where the money is and see where the opportunity is and see how we can fit in.
Right.
Versus listening to a political party that says, well, wait a second, don't follow those guys. Those guys are about, they don't like you guys. But you know what? Stay right here and stay poor. Listen, if you're trying to help me, then leave me alone. Don't try to hurt me by telling me, hey, listen, don't make an effort. Don't do anything on how bad those guys are. Especially when you have the knowledge when it comes to making the money. You won't do it. So that's how I look at it. So again,
and an example I would like to give here is gentrification, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people say that we don't have opportunities. We have less of an advantage. Let's talk a little bit about that, because we'll go back into politics a little bit with Trump. Trump came out with a program that actually helps the inner cities with this gentrification.
Okay.
You could elaborate a little bit on that?
The program, I read briefly about it, but it is a program that is designated to the black, not the minority community, and all these code words that they use. They're talking about the black community, right? And it's basically, it helps to business owners, and it helps people access, have funds to access to real estate and opportunity zones, and there's a lot of things out there, and he put billions of dollars in place. Now, not that I could remember, I can't remember any other political party or president that did something, that did that, right? Now, the thing is that a lot of black people in the black communities have no clue about this program. Why? Because the hate for Trump is so strong that an opportunity is right there, but you'll miss it if you don't pay attention. And that's why my goal is not to get people to vote Republican. Right. That's my more on a Blistex type of situation. Is we're not just because I have children and keep we don't have to be Democrats. So that's how I look at it. But yes, there are opportunities out there too, and people have to research, because at the end of the day, I can give you some of the information, but if you don't go out there and do your own research, then you're never gonna know about it. And then, of course, if you're thinking emotionally, you're gonna miss out on opportunity. Look at what's best for your community, not even really best for yourself, because you might be in a situation. You gotta look at what's best for the community collectively.
Right.
For as many people as we possibly can, and then what's going to make the culture grow. You see what I'm saying? So we got to look at it like, what? I think there was a movie with Denzel, and then James Earl Jones did the same thing. It's not about liking. You don't worry about me liking you. Right. You just I got to worry about you treating me right.
Educate yourself enough to know who is actually getting the job done, right? So to me, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I feel like Trump has proven that in a lot of ways. To me, I'm not a big fan of Trump. I'm not saying that I'm a Republican either, but I do notice a big difference. And this is actually with my acknowledgement of politics, because Democrat has been in office forever, as long as I could remember being knowledgeable about politics. But with Trump in there and Republicans, the difference that I noticed between the two is Democrats keeps us trapped, us in the black community, right? Like there's not much opportunity. I get where that's coming from. And then I realized when Trump came into office, you seen entrepreneurship everywhere. You have like millions of millionaires being born on his watch. So there is a difference in that, to know that the mindset is trickling down, right? From the guy who's on top, which is Trump, the president, it's trickling down. But for the ones of us who want to hate because we feel like he's racist, or for whatever reason that you'll never see the opportunities that are out there. So that's why I wanted to share that piece. Thank you.
Definitely.
So Hugo, what's your take? Because none of us are, like our families, if not us ourselves, are not originally from this country, right? What would you say, what would it take for somebody who's not from this country to feel like we don't have less an advantage to really fulfill the life that we want?
You mean as in?
As in, okay, like,
an immigrant coming to this country?
Yeah, or like, just being in the inner cities, or, feeling like if we're not wealthy, or if we're not in a certain area, that we have less of an advantage.
Right. I mean, what I would say to that is we're living in an age today, just look at what we're doing. Mm-hmm. We're sitting down, we're talking, we're dialoguing, we're sharing information. and we'll put it on the internet, and this is a time like no other, right? So the beauty of America is all these opportunities that the rich have had forever are all available to us. Whether it's you're starting with a $5 million whole life insurance policy, or you're just gonna contribute $500 a year or whatever it is, it's the same opportunities. We have them, right? And the thing is really what, like Pierre was saying, it's about enlightening yourself and educating yourself, and through these forums, through the podcast, through YouTube, through the internet, we can really share and create these movements. So in today's world, there's really almost no excuse, is the way I see it. No. There's no excuse to be ignorant anymore, because it is at our fingertips.
Right.
I could pull it up on my watch and just read an article, 20 years ago, it was a different story. Right. You had to go to the library, you had to go buy books, you had to do all these things, which I encourage still. Yeah. But don't believe everything you see on the internet. It could be a double-edged sword. But inform yourself. If you find out about a topic, we were discussing this, Pierre. We like to go. If you read something, then dive into it. Right. Find out more.
You're really good with that.
I'm curious. I'm just a curious guy. Sometimes it got me into trouble, and sometimes it's helped me out a lot. Right. And it's really, there's really no excuse today. So anybody that comes, this is the greatest country in the world in the sense that all of opportunities, it's equal. It's laid out for everyone. So that's why there is no hate. Like, I don't hate on the wealthy that don't pay taxes. Right. More power to them. They're just informed.
Right, exactly.
The system's set up, and it's been set up like this for a long time, way before us. And probably way after us.
Right.
It's all a game.
Right.
I don't like being on the sidelines. I don't like watching. I don't like being a spectator. I want to play.
Right.
So when you want to play, you got to learn the rules. You got to educate yourself, and then go for it.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing.
Right. And it's an endless thing too.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's never ending.
One thing I want to talk about, I want to touch on before we go, is the hood. Right. Because I feel like a lot of us we just are watching the news and we have no idea what's really going on, how the dots connect. For example, this pandemic that we have going on, and I just really like to share, and a lot of people go over their head, but some people might let me look a little bit more into that. So let's talk a little bit about that.
As for the news, in a term that has been made popular since 2015, maybe 16, fake news. I say the best thing for people to do is stop watching the news, whether it's Fox News, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, ABC, local news, because their job is to basically brainwash you and program you to think what they say. Now, if you really, really look deep down into what the media job is, then you'll see that the news is not for you unless you know how to watch the news and filter out what needs to be filtered out. A lot of people can't. Most people can't do that. And if you're not somewhat conscious or woke enough, I'm not talking about pro-black or anything, but if you're not conscious and to understand how these things work, guess what? Watching the news is the worst thing that you can do. As a matter of fact, the best thing you could do is Al Jazeera. Watch Al Jazeera from Pakistan or whatever it is. You'll find out more real information there or on YouTube. And in some cases, even on Facebook. You know what I mean? Not all sites on Facebook that you can find, because when I get into a discussion with somebody, what I started noticing is they start sounding like the news broadcasting person. You know what I'm saying? So you have a media brain, and the media is not supposed to they don't give you an option to think. They actually tell you what to think. And the most people that are opinionated, that have no clue on what they're talking about, never do any research, are people that watch the news. Believe it or not. So let's talk about this pandemic thing.
Right.
I don't call it a pandemic. I call it a pandemic. Because this is planned. So
no doubt.
Conspiracy theories, people throw that term around. People that accuse people of being a conspiracy theory or theorist or whatever are usually people that don't want to do any research.
Right. They
just say, hey, you know what, this sound, and all of a sudden, when they find out whatever the person was saying that's supposedly a conspiracy theorist actually was true, for some strange reason they never come back and say, you know what, you were right about that.
Because
it hurt the feelings. The truth hurts people's feelings.
Right.
So, as for this whole pandemic thing, I look at it, and by the way, during the pandemic is a time where you're supposed to be at least save as much money as you possibly can, try to make as much money as you possibly can, and develop a skill so that when this whole thing is over, so that you can make some more money for yourself.
Come back even stronger.
Come back even stronger. So when it comes to this pandemic thing, a lot of people need to understand that you have to actually do the research. Don't let the hate for a political person or party make you so ignorant to the point where you can't see what's going on. A lot of people right now, and I don't want to get into this whole hate this person or watch out for this person, but for example, Bill Gates and Dr. Fauci, a lot of people like to say, hey, you know what? These guys are the guys that are supposed to come and save us. Actually, if it wasn't for Donald Trump right now, we would all be vaccinated with a chip in our ass right now.
Right.
That's just what it is. You know what I mean? Now, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, how much pressure they're going to put on them and stuff like that. But I don't want to be vaccinated or force vaccinated to where the World Health Organization,
right,
the chairman or the president is talking about just coming and knocking on people's door, barging in and testing you. And if they feel like you test positive for the coronavirus, they're taking you away. Taking you where?
Which is led to believe that we already have strings of the coronavirus in us from past flu shots and whatever else they have given us. So,
yeah,
I mean, more than likely, everybody would come up positive on a coronavirus, on a COVID-19 test.
One thing I wanted to add too is don't let them scare you to death. When you're scared, what happens is that your immune system goes down. If you're living in the state like you're in constant fear, your immune system goes down. So now the viruses that you already have, just like you said, we already have viruses in our body. There's a virus here on the table that I just touched. It might be something here, but my immune system is my defense towards it. You know what I mean? It's like, let's say, for example, you're running from a lion. And I like to use this example. Let's say you're running from a lion. You're in a state of panic. You're scared to death. Well, guess what? Your immune system is lowered at that time because guess what? Now you're in a fight or flight situation and you need the energy that you can run, right? But now your immune system is low. So if you had any bacteria or anything like that, you'll get sick. But as soon as you relax and you start thinking, and you start being relaxed, your immune system actually is at its best. So when you're watching the news, you're being scared to death. You got to put a mask on. You got to do this. You got to run away from people. That actually is a bad thing for you. And I think that, and it's so weird, and maybe I might be wrong on the timeline. There was a time when Trump was talking about how not to be afraid of this, and maybe he might have took it a little bit lightly or not. But I remember that Nancy Pelosi was in Chinatown dancing around saying that, our Chinese people are the friend. But when Trump actually shut down the border, but then turn around and flip it and say, he's being racist against thing. But then all of a sudden he didn't close it in enough time, the border, but he actually did. So that's why I'm saying, you know what? Stop watching the news. Do some research and boost your immune system. Boost your immune system the best you can. Try to eat healthy and try to work out, stay clean, make some money, and try to live in less fear. That's the best thing I could tell anybody.
You know what someone told me one time, and I believe it's true. They said that when a lot of people who get in car accidents don't actually die from the accident. They die from fear. Like their heart goes into almost like it bursts from the fear of the accident. And when I really think about it, it makes sense to me.
Panic.
Panic.
Panic will make the body do some real crazy things.
Right.
I've heard stories of people dying out of fear.
Right.
You die out of fear. Something spooked you to death. These are actual terms that come from somewhere.
Right. Definitely. I've even heard a study on it from people in the World War II who they did a study of people who just gave up, right? And just fell into whatever was going on. They died.
You died.
And people who knew they had family to get back to, they were adamant about staying alive.
Surviving.
And so
it's all right here.
Yeah.
You got to get your mind right. Get your mind. As long as you bulletproof your mind the best you can, that's the best thing that you can do for yourself. That's why it's a lot of people are watching Netflix and watching movies and doing certain things. They're while they're staying home. one thing that I see that not a lot of people are doing is, of course, meditating and bulletproofing your mind. You know, you can cure your body by using your mind. So now, if your mind is all feared, oh my God, they're gonna do this. Oh, you know, the killer hornets are coming and stuff like that. You're just gonna, like you said, spook yourself to death, and all of a sudden, you know, you're not gonna make it.
I had a friend reach out to me yesterday because I'm kind of getting carried away with the whole freaking myself out too, and he was like, "Listen, you just have to hope for the best and don't freak yourself out." You know what I mean? And I get it, because it's like, although I'm like, you know, we should be aware, but at the same time, I'm also freaking myself out, you know? Okay. I don't think people really understand how important it is right now, especially right now with needing to have health insurance. Just like you were saying, it's just as important as having life insurance. And the reason why I say that, you guys, I come from the medical field. And so I kind of understand how that whole thing works. I've witnessed people go into the hospital and are overlooked and have died because they don't have health insurance. Okay, yes, they are there to, you know, provide medical services and hopefully save our lives, but you just have to be aware of the kind of country that we live in and how it's set up, you know. And unfortunately, if you're going into the hospital right now and don't have no health insurance for an issue that they are going to label you as COVID-19 either way, something that they get, you know, they're able to get paid out on with double digits. You know what I mean? So you have to think that if you're not covered, for them to get that payment and the next person who comes in is, that you will be overlooked, and it may cost you your life. Right. So, you know, you want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Health insurance. It's a topic that a lot of people don't discuss. Everybody's into movies. You've seen John Q with Denzel Washington. He had health insurance but didn't have the right health insurance. So you have to make sure, and how the hospital looks at you is, we're not going to get our money, so we're not going to try the best we can for you, because you don't have this, $20,000, $30,000 cash laying around at home to pay for this. So you have to have health insurance. Now, of course, some people say, well, I can't afford health insurance. Well, then now you have to go into budgeting. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's important not to go out there and spend your money on looking good, but you got to spend your money on things that are going to actually make you good, physically, of course. So you have to make sure that you have health insurance, so that when you do the right health insurance, and then when you do go to the hospital, they'll be able to take care of you. But that's not only that, though. Let's say you do have a little money. You got 10, 15 grand at home, but you don't have any health insurance. Well, what's going to happen is that now you're going to have to take your cash, and now you're going to have to spend it on, not having health insurance could either cost you your life or make you broke. And you don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you pay a little bit of money, so you have this much of coverage, so that your health issues could be taken care of. Another thing that we didn't speak about this, but long-term care insurance, or, for your senior years. Right. You want to make sure that you have, just in case you need to go into a nursing home, you want to make sure that, you have things just in case you need a CNA to come to your house. You want to make sure that you're covered when it comes to that type of insurance. Now, but I also say, have that insurance, and you have to. Don't go another day without having life insurance.
And that care for when you get older, the reason why I feel like that's very important. Our parents are accustomed to coming from a country where they take care of their parents when they get old, right? And I'm not saying all of us in this generation don't have that same mindset, but I can say that a lot of us don't. I don't see a lot of us really. I tell my mom this all the time. This is one of my things of wanting to become wealthy, is because I honestly, as much as I move around, don't see myself being able to take care of her like she takes care of my grandma. Like, she hasn't worked in over 10 years, and her full-time job is taking care of my grandma. There's a lot that she misses out on, but the wealthy, not even the wealthy, a lot of people, and I'm going to say a lot of Caucasians, set themselves up for that, so that their kids are not the ones, and it's a double-edged sword, because a lot of them do leave their parents in nursing homes and that type of thing too. But all in all, you guys, you get the concept. Get life insurance, get health insurance. So another topic I would like to talk about before we go again for the second time is, with this pandemic, there's a lot of things that's going to come behind it, right? And there's a lot of people who's going to be put in certain situations that they don't know how to deal with it. And what I will tell you is the people who I surround myself with are people who know how to solve problems, right? And that's what I am. I'm a big time problem solver. And so I'm also into real estate investing, for those of you who may not know. And Hugo and I are actually partners in that. And we do a lot of learning and teaching together. So one of the roads that we definitely see coming ahead is foreclosures. So Hugo, could you elaborate a little bit about that? And, what's your experience with that?
Well, given the circumstances of the current economy and the current situation that a lot of people find themselves in, we definitely feel that there's going to be foreclosures in the horizon, similar to 2008, 2009, maybe even worse. Don't really have a crystal ball to say, hey, listen, this is what's going to happen. But a lot of people have been affected. I mean, even like the Airbnb model has been pretty much almost wiped out overnight. And these are, people have loans on these properties, and that's just one simple example. I mean, if you were already behind and you lost your job, it's going to be that much harder to catch up, right? Yeah. So yeah, we have some help right now, and I call that more like Band-Aid on cancer, right? It's not really solutions, just here, have money or this, or don't pay. The problems are still there. And at some point, you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to face it. So my expertise in the real estate is really in distressed real estate. So, and by distressed, I don't mean like the dilapidated home. I mean foreclosure, pre-foreclosure, clout and title, just real complicated things that people find themselves in. This happens every single day. And
that, not to cut you off, that can avoid somebody from going into having a foreclosure on their record, right?
I mean,
if you catch it on time.
There's so many. The spectrum is very wide, right? It's from A to Z. So there's different levels of the foreclosure, different phases of the foreclosure. Essentially, once a bank files foreclosure, then you basically have a foreclosure on your record. No matter what the outcome is, it's already there. So you're kind of stained already. Right. But if you're already in the rears and you're not paying your mortgage, your credit is already being affected. Right. So people find themselves in this little downward spiral, and once you get really deep into it, you get overwhelmed. You feel like there's no solutions, there's no options. But that's, there's actually, and especially in Florida, there's a lot of consumer protection laws, especially on your primary residence. If it's your primary residence and this is your home and you're homesteaded, you essentially have a lot of protections that you can, rights that you can implement, and this is where we come in. We're experts at dealing with these problems and going up against the bank and settling these matters through attorneys. And we've had a pretty successful track record in saving homes, keeping people in their homes, getting money in their pockets, and allowing them to walk away with a new start, a fresh start. And that's. Or
even in some instances, like we're kind of working on a deal where somebody has a property, they really don't know how to manage it, and versus going, they're not in debt, they're not in foreclosure, but they know that that's where they might be headed, right? And so something of where you basically can purchase the title from them.
Yeah, I mean now title, debt, these are all, we're getting into kind of the nitty-gritty stuff. Essentially, a title of a home, a deed, is just the ownership rights. Right. So anybody can have a title. I can have my house, I can sign it over to Pierre. Pierre's now the owner. Right. The debt really has nothing to do with the matter. This is where we come in with our attorneys, and we basically negotiate with the banks, and we come up with settlements and agreements where everyone's happy. They get paid, and either the home moves on, or the homeowner moves on, or gets sold, or there's so many different approaches, and every family, every individual has a different They want a different mode. There's different motive,
Right.
different outcomes.
Right.
You know, they need different
Case by
things.
case.
The case by case, right?
Yeah.
Between the real estate, it's very unique. The individual circumstances are unique, and we're just basically problem solvers.
Right.
This is what we specialize in.
Exactly.
And just what's the problem? What do you want to get out of it? And this is what we can do to help you out.
So, you guys, if you know of anybody who has an issue with their property or is trying to get rid of some property, you can reach out to us. You can reach out to me. We will give our social media information later on before the show is over. So, you guys, I want to touch on something else. Can you please pick? Okay, so I think that's it for today, though. I don't think we have any more time. Let's go ahead and give our social media where people can reach you guys. And you guys, don't forget, if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, Rise Above Podcast, please do so. If you like what we have to say, please share with a friend. It's very valuable information. This show is set up to have all of us win. You know what I mean? As I'm learning, I like to teach, and again, if I'm teaching, I'm also learning. So I'm not saying that I know everything, but I am a very informative, resourceful person. And if I can help anybody with anything that I know by sharing it, that's the goal. Okay? So where can people reach you here?
You can reach me on my Facebook. It's Pierre Matherin, Pierre. Last name Matherin, Mathurin. My phone number is 786-277-8362. Inbox me, text me, any credit issues, life insurance issues, or just even finance, anything that has to do with finance and financial literacy. I can point you in so many directions. One thing about me is I like to care about people's feelings, but the most important thing to me is the truth. So if I have to hurt your feelings with the truth, I will do that. I have no problem with that. But I just want to make sure that generational wealth is something that you think about and dealing with your finances right now. So I'm not a life insurance agent. I'm a generational wealth agent. Yes. Whether it has to deal with credit, whether it has to do with stocks, I'm getting better at stocks as well. With life insurance. And even if you do have life insurance, you have some questions about life insurance, it's always good to have a second opinion, especially with somebody who has no problem hurting your feelings and letting you know that policy is not good for you, or it is good for you, keep it, do this or don't do that. So any type of issues, just let me know, 786-277-8362. I'm coming out with a book soon too. It's, I don't know what I'm gonna call it, Finances for My People or something like that. So just look out for me, look on my page. You'll see what, basically I'm all about, and that's it.
So I guess best place to reach me would be via email, hcabrera@structuredig.com. That's HCABRERA@structuredig.com. And that stands for Structured Investment Group. I would say that's the best way to get a hold of me, and anybody that knows Betsy, they can get a hold of me that way too. And
yes. Yeah. And you guys, you can reach me on Instagram at Lady B Queen. That's Lady BEE Queen. And you can reach me on Facebook, Betsy BETSY. Last name is DIEUJUSTE. So you guys, myself, I have a few projects that I'm working on that I'll be coming out soon with. Stay tuned and find out what they're all about. But it's a movement, you guys. It's a movement of us continuing to educate ourselves to keep climbing up that ladder, and I hope you guys continue to join us on the journey and see how it all unfolds and develops. Thank you for joining us.
Fear is what's holding us back. We need word of encouragement, pat on the back. We need good friends we can depend on. Talking about building, I'm talking about brainstorm. Stay woke, gotta have the proper mindset. Keep yourself in check, strive for the best. Life is like a game of chess, even if you